Good day, class. Mr. Garcia here. Hope everybody's doing well. I am going to be setting up a review over the medications and see if it'll get some students to take the test by June. That's when the school wants most of you to take the test. I've been trying to prepare for this. We are looking at medications. We're going to go through the top 50 to 100 and just some certain things to remember things by, certain ways to remember your medications by. So we'll start with Prenavil. That is the brand name. Generic name is Lisinopril. It is a ACE inhibitor and it is good for hypertension, congestive heart failure, acute myocardial infarction. So, if I was to want to remember this, first thing I want to do is let's get this set up here real quick. Clear this. All right. First thing would be to know what drug class it is in. So let's go back and we see that it is in the ACE inhibitor drug class, angiotensin converting enzyme. So, drug class ACE inhibitor. All right. And first one, I'm just going to be going over the generic names and just familiar yourself with the brand name. So we got lisinopril. It's an ACE inhibitor. Again, look at the endings to some of these because it'll help you out. So we got lisinopril, ends in PRIL, and again, it is for hypertension, congestive heart failure, acute myocardial infarction. So uh, I'm going to use the abbreviations on the indications. So hypertension, congestive heart failure, hypertension, and congestive heart failure. And let's look at what kind of side effects this has. So I will open up drugs.com here and I'm going to put in this lisinopril. Just look for it. Let's see what kind of side effects it has. Commonly reported side effects are dizziness, hypotension. So that's very low uh, blood pressure, I would say. Um, Hyperkalemia, increased blood urea nitrogen, and increased serum creatinine. Other side effects include headache, but the most common ones are dizziness and hypotension. So that's what I'm going to put on my notes here. So dizziness, hypotension. Sorry, this is not coming out too nice, but uh, you can hear me, so you know what the word is, anyways. So side effects are uh, dizziness and hypertension. Indications are hypertension and congestive heart failure. All right. So let's look at another ACE inhibitor that we can find in the top 52 100. See if we find another ACE inhibitor here. It's like one of the top ones there. See if I can find one or two more here. Here's one number 85 here, and we are looking at enalapril, brand name Vasotic. So enalapril. Let's look at what it's for. Let's see, number 85. And again, we got hypertension, congestive heart failure. So again, it's hypertension and congestive heart failure. So if you look at it, it's got the same ending. It's got the same indications for. Let's see if it's got the same side effects. Let's go back up here in Alapro. Get the side effects. Commonly reported side effects increase blood urea, nitrogen, and increase serum creatinine. We also saw that in the other one, so we'll put increased blood urea, nitrogen, and increased serum creatinine. So increase blood urea, and that was also in the lisinopril, and increase, what was it, creatinine, increase serum creatinine. And let's see if we can find one more, the top 100. If not, then I'll see if I can find another one within the top 200. Here's another one, ramipril. Ramipril. So notice they all end in PRIL. So usually when you see an ACE inhibitor, they will end in PRIL. Let's see the indications. What was it, number 94? Hypertension and congestive heart failure. Okay, we see that again. So most ACE inhibitors are for congestive heart failure and hypertension. Let's see what it tells us as side effects. And I'm looking at the side effects in drugs.com. You can probably also find the drug class as well. So again, we have hypotension and increased cough. So for the most part, it creates hypotension. I'll put increased cough here. And again, we have hypotension and congestive heart failure. So for the most part, ACE inhibitors end in PRIL. They all are for hypertension, congestive heart failure. Lisinopril causes dizziness, hypotension, increased blood urea, increased serum creatinine, while enalapril just increases the blood urea and increase of serum creatinine. Ramipril has hypotension, creates side effect, and increased cough. So for the most part, they all have somewhat the same side effect. They do for sure all work for the same thing, congestive heart failure, hypertension, and they all end in PRIL. That's a good way of learning these drugs, okay? So let's move on to another one here. Let me erase this one. Look at this. Do a different color here. And we'll do, let's go back up. And I'm going to skip the synthroid levothyroxine. I'm going to jump to the glucophage metformin here. So it's a biguanide, metformin, generic name, brand name glucophage, and it is for diabetes mellitus type 2. So first we'll start off with the drug class, biguanide. It's a biguanide. That's drug class. Metformin. For diabetes. Mellitus 2. Diabetes mellitus type 2. And let's look at what the side effects are for that one. Let's see here. Commonly reported side effects of metformin include lactic acidosis, diarrhea. So we'll put lactic acidosis, diarrhea. What else? Nausea. Vomiting and flatulence. I'll put vomiting here. Flatulence. So let's look for another biguanide that's under that falls under this drug class. Another medication that falls under this drug class. Let's see if we can find one. I'm just going to look up within the top 200 here. There's not many. I'm just going to make sure that there's not any more in the top 200. That might be the only one. It looks like the only one. So we only have one to remember in biguanide. That's good, right? So we got metformin. Indications for diabetes mellitus 2. Creates side effects are lactic acidosis, diarrhea, vomiting, nausea, and flatulence. Pretty easy on that one. Let's find a different one here. All right, this is probably a good one. Simvastatin, HMG CoA reductase inhibitor. All right, simvastatin, drug class HMG CoA reductase inhibitor, and that is for hypercholesteremia. So HMG CoA, HMG CoA reductase inhibitor. Sorry, my spelling's not too good on this whiteboard. Simvastatin. Indication is for hypercholesterolemia, so high cholesterol. Hypercholesterolemia. Let's look at the side effects for simvastatin. Frequent side effects include eczema, and increased creatine phosphokinase in blood specimen. Eczema. Let's write that down. Side effects. Eczema. Increase. What was it? Creatine phosphokinase. In blood serum. Sorry if you not be able to read it, but if you can understand what I'm talking about, or if you can hear me, you should be able to know what these are. All right, so we got simvastatin, HMG CoA in reductase inhibitor. It's for hypercholesterolemia. I'm gonna say that's high cholesterol. It side effects are eczema and increased creatine phosphokinase in the blood serum. So right under that simvastatin, we had atorvastatin, which is also HMG CoA reductase inhibitor, and also for hypercholesteremia. How do you think that? Atorvastatin and Lipitor. So we got atorvastatin. And look at how they end. Statin. So HMG CoA reductase inhibitor ends in statin. Atorvastatin is for hypercholesterolemia. And let's look at the side effects here. Commonly reported side effects of atorvastatin, we got hemorrhagic stroke. That's no good. Hemorrhagic stroke, arthralgia, diarrhea, nasopharyngitis. Okay, so it's got a little bit different side effects. I'm gonna put that in a different color. Hemorrhagic stroke, diarrhea. What else? Um, Arthralgia and nasopharyngitis. It's H. Arthralgia, nasopharyngitis. Sorry, ran out of room. Nasopharyngitis at the bottom. But it's still for hypercholesterolemia. That's torvastatin. Uh, N and statin. All agent, well, not all. There's some exceptions, I'm sure. But most HMG CoA reductase inhibitor, and that most medications in this drug class will end in STATIN and are would be for hypercholesterolemia. Let's look and see if there's one more in there. I like to always have three, or look at um, the top 100 to 200. If I can find one more, that'd be great. Here's another one. Pravastatin, HMG CoA reductase inhibitor. Again, hypercholesterolemia. So, Pravastatin. Again, we end in statin. So, HMG CoA reductase inhibitor drug class. That's your drug class. They end in statin. And you have simvastatin, atorvastatin, pravastatin for hypercholesterolemia. And let's see what side effects it has. Frequently reported side effects increase serum alanine, aminotransferase, skin rash. So that could be tied to eczema, skin rash, increased creatinine, phosphokinase in blood specimen. Again, that was another one. So they kind of were similar, other than the increased serum alanine aminotransferase. So I would say I would all again pick skin rash and increase creatine, phosphokinase in blood specimen, and that's what it. Let's see, increase creatine, phosphokinase blood should be specimen, not serum. Hemorrhage, stroke, and also eczema, which is also somewhat of a skin rash. So again, the all in statin for drug class HMG CoA reductase inhibitor, and they all are for hypercholesterolemia. So once you start getting used to all these, you know, write them down on a card or something. I would first write them down all together, like I'm doing here. Top 100 to 200. You will see those for sure, 100 to 200. And get your side effects, get what their four indications. See if they have the same ending, prefixes or suffixes. And make sure you remember the drug class. And these seem to be all for the heart. Heart, I would say the cardiovascular system. So I would also put that too. Cardio system, cardiovascular. I would put cardiovascular so I won't get mixed up with respiratory. All right, so let's move on to another one here. Clear that. And I'm just trying to get y'all to understand your top 100s and how to figure them out on what they're for. So I understand that's what a lot of the test is over is the medications part. So let's look at metoprolol tartrate. It's a beta blocker, hypertension, HTN. I'm going to put HTN, angina, myocardial infarction. So we have hypertension, angina, and myocardial infarction. I'm going to put the abbreviations there so you can become familiar with the abbreviations. Again, we're dealing with the cardiovascular, so it is a beta blocker, right? Blood pressure, beta blocker, okay. So we're doing beta blocker. It's for the cardiovascular. And metoprolol. For the most part, just remember metoprolol for hypertension, myocardial infarction, angina. Let's look at the side effects. Cardiac failure, bradycardia, slowing down the heart rate, hypotension, slowing down again. Cardiac failure, bradycardia, hypotension. So bradycardia, hypotension, and last one was the first one, cardiac failure. Cardiac failure. All right. So beta blocker, metoprolol. It's for hypertension, myocardial infarction, angina. Side effects: bradycardia, hypotension. Remember that's hypo, and cardiac failure. Let's look at another beta blocker. Let's look at atenolol. And again, I'm just looking at the generic name. So maybe on a card you could transfer and put the brand name on there. Let's see what atenolol is for. Atenolol, hypertension, angina, migraine headache, prophylaxis. Prophylaxis means to try to be proactive and to try to treat it before the onset of it. Okay. So for the most part, what's similar is hypertension and angina. And then I'll put prophylaxis to migraine. And it is also for the hypertension and angina as well. Let's look at the side effects. Cardiac failure again, bradycardia, dizziness, fatigue, and cold extremities. So again, we have cardiac failure and bradycardia. We'll just need to add dizziness, fatigue, and cold extremities. So I'll add dizziness, fatigue, cold extremities. Let's look if we can find one more. Here's another HMG-CoA reductase inhibitor that I did not get. Rosuvastatin or Crestor, and that's hypercholesterolemia. Again, same indications. Let's see, beta blocker. Another reductase inhibitor and lovastatin, again for hypercholesterolemia. Beta blocker. Here's a beta blocker, propranolol, number 79. Also, again for hypertension and angina. So don't make it hard on yourselves, thinking that it's hard to remember these things. They all are gonna mostly end the same, mostly gonna be the same for its indication. So this was hypertension and angina, and let's see. Propranolol. Propranolol doesn't seem to have a list of side effects. So that's a good thing. So for the most part, propranolol doesn't show to have any side effects, which I'm sure there is some, but not, I guess, enough to document. I really couldn't tell you. Um, I don't know. But we know some of the side effects to beta blockers. Again, we are in an OLOL. So most beta blockers, well, in an OLOL, are for hypertension, myocardial infarction, and angina. Atenolol is prophylaxis to a migraine headache. They are all in the cardiovascular system, and they do all mostly create side effects of bradycardia, hypotension, cardiac failure, and some dizziness, fatigue, and cold extremities. So if you could get all these together, and then once you put them all together, I say your top 100 to 200, and then after that, put them on cards. After you put them, you can always reference back to your page that you wrote all these on, and then you can also take your cards around as well and study those. It will become helpful for you. Let's do one more. Let me erase this first. So really, medications isn't that hard. A matter of just repetition and looking them over. because you can tell by a certain drug class, they will all have mostly the same indications and mostly the same side effects, as well as their prefixes or suffixes. They will end somewhat the same. There are some exceptions, but for most of them, the ones that we use quite a bit, or if you check on the top 100 to 200, you know, you'll see that most of them will end or begin the same way. So let's see, let's go again to so last one was torvastatin, oh, metoprolol. All right, let's look at esomeprazole, which is brand name Nexium. It's a proton pump inhibitor, PPI. It's for gastroesophageal reflux disease, or GERD. So its drug class is proton pump inhibitor. And this is for the digestive system. All right. It's always good to know which system it falls into. So it keeps you understanding, okay, GERD is dealing with the esophagus, you know. So, esomeprazole, GERD, it's for GERD. And let's look at the side effects to it. Side effects require immediate medical attention. Some more common side effects are unpleasant taste, change of taste. Um, these may have all these side effects, but it says incidents not known. So for the most part, I'm gonna put maybe blistering, bloating chills, maybe. Let's do bloating chills. And let's see what unpleasant taste and change in taste. Alright, change in taste. Change in taste. Anytime we see a triangle like this, that just means change. So it's may cause bloating, chills, unpleasant taste, and change in taste. Proton pump inhibitor. Let's see if we can find another one here. PPI. Here's another one, lansoprazole or Prevacid. And look at how they're ending right here. So proton pump inhibitors ending in prazole. Um, Again, we got GERD for GERD. So let's look at the side effect. It's got diarrhea and skin rash for the most part, which is the most common ones. So let's add diarrhea, skin rash. Again, it's for GERD. Let's see if we can find one more in the top 200. PPIs, proton pump inhibitors. Here's the last one here that I'll do. Rabeprazole or Acifex, PPI, again for GERD. Rabeprazole, again Prazole, proton pump inhibitors. This is for GERD. Let's look at the generic name. The side effect. Atrophic gastritis. Again, you got your chills, cough, bloating. For the most part, it does. Most commonly reported side effect is atrophic gastritis. So we'll put atrophic gastritis. So For the most part, they end in PRAZOLE. Drug class is proton pump inhibitors. It's in the digestive system, and they are for GERD. For the most part, they create chills, bloating, unpleasant taste, change in taste, diarrhea, skin rash, and atrophic gastritis. And again, transfer these to a card, and it'll help you out quite a bit. But also put the brand name, so because you're gonna have to know the brand name. One more. Let's see if I see here. That says opioid combination. We'll skip that one. We'll do an opioid combination, just a combination of an opioid plus something else. I'm sure we'll have more of those. Not so many within the top 100 to 200. I wouldn't think. I would think that's almost uh, would be by itself. Let's see if I can find. Here's one that just says opioid. Another one opioid. So for the most part, that's probably the only one, unless you find something else. Of course, don't skip it. Go back to it and see if you can find other ones within the top 100 to 200. I'm going to jump to amlodipine benzoate, calcium channel blocker, brand name's Norvasc, and the indications for hypertension and coronary artery disease. So, amlodipine benzoate, drug class calcium channel blocker. So let's go to whiteboard. Calcium channel blocker. And which one was it? Amlodipine benzoate. It's for hypertension, coronary artery disease. Again, this is cardiovascular system. And let's look at the side effects. Commonly reported side effects of amlodipine include edema. Other side effects are fatigue, palpitations, and flushing. So, for the most part, it does create edema, palpitations, flushing. Fatigue. So let's look at what we can find other calcium channel blockers. Diltiazem, it's for angina and hypertension. So diltiazem and angina and hypertension as well. Let's look at what the side effects are. Dizziness, edema. Again, we got edema, asthenia, headache, and vasodilation. So let's add dizziness, headache, vasodilation, asthenia, if we can. Vasodilation, asthenia, headache. All right. Let's look and see if there's one more calcium channel blocker within the top 200. And for the most part, you can just get 3 to 5. That should be good. 3 to 5, or whatever's in your top 200 drugs. Nifedipine, and notice how they end. Dipine. Here's another one, Dipine. Nifedipine, calcium channel blocker is for angina. So we got angina here as well. And let's see what the side effects are. Dizziness, peripheral edema, lower extremity edema, flushing sensation. So for the most part, dizziness and flushing are about the same. We could put peripheral edema, lower extremity edema, or I would just say edema, honestly, which is another same side effect. Dizziness as well. So for the most part, you'll find same side effects, same indications, and some, not all, this is an exception here, but nifedipine, amlodipine, and the dipine. That's gonna let me know that's a calcium channel blocker. I already think calcium channel blocker. Think cardiovascular. Also, think hypertension, coronary artery disease, angina. And there are certain side effects: edema, flushing, dizziness, vasodilation, palpitations. So, for the most part, just get you a list, write down each uh, drug class, put down at least 3 to 5 generic names along with their brand name. For the most part, they're all going to have the same indications. It might have a little bit different, but they all will somewhat work the same. Be familiar with the endings or beginnings, suffix, prefix, and be familiar with the side effects. If you can get that all down and study it and be repetitive on it, especially through your when you're making your note cards, it'll help you out a lot with the test. And the test is 40% of medications. So for the most part, I hope I broke this down a little bit easier for you to understand as to what to understand under medication. All right. So hope this helped out, and y'all have a great day.